So today I'm talking about hidden costs or additional costs that become a factor when you buy a brand new home. Now, when I say new home or brand new home, what I mean is a new construction home, a new build. There's a few different terms you can use, but essentially a brand newly built home. Right? Not just a home that's new to you. This applies more to new construction homes. So if you're looking at older homes, I'd recommend my video, 3 things to know about buying an older home. Now, what I mean by these are hidden costs is these are costs that are additional or not necessarily included in the purchase price of your new home and are usually an extra additional cash out of pocket cost to you. Again, typically these are not included in the purchase versus some of these items when you buy a resale home actually are. So just to really make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into when you purchase a brand new home. Item number 1 on this list is the deck, landscaping, and fencing. Typically is not included when you purchase a brand new home. Very often the front landscaping will be included, but that's about it. Typically your yard, they only do the rough grade. You don't get any sod or grass back there, and you're responsible for building your own fence. And very often you don't get a deck at all, or the deck that is included is relatively small and is more or less just steps to your back door. Again, it's important to be aware of these because this is another item that's cash out of pocket and an additional expense to you, the buyer. Sometimes you can get the builder to do decks and fences for you, but it is often not super economical to do so, as the rates you would pay on the open market are a little bit less than what many builders charge. This is also something to keep in mind if you're buying more in the fall or winter months, which we have a lot of around here. You won't be able to deal with your deck or fence until the next season comes around. Also, just from a practicality standpoint, say you're someone with dogs, you're not going to have anywhere to let your dogs go out for the first couple months. You're still going to have to take them out on their leash, etc. Just kind of a functionality thing. Number 2 for hidden and additional costs when you're buying a new home is the blinds or window coverings. So if you've ever looked at a brand new home, if you see a listing online, perhaps you even saw it in person, assuming it's not staged or not the show home, you may notice something seems a little off, and that is that there's no blinds on any of the windows. So you as the buyer do have to purchase these extra in addition to the home. And typically these can be moderately expensive. It depends how high quality and custom you end up going with blinds. The choice is kind of yours, but this is an additional cost in addition to your purchase price. And again, it can be a few $1,000s out of pocket for you, and you typically need blinds more or less from day one, at least in your bedrooms and several of the main living areas of your home. The larger your home, typically the more windows you're going to have, which just means it will be a little more expensive. Conversely, if you're buying a resale home, the window coverings typically are included, whether it's all of them or most of them, and your realtor can make sure of this as well. This is just a little bit of a cost difference because when you're buying a resale home, the window coverings are included, but when you buy a new construction home, you have to purchase all the blinds, etc. Separately, and again, it's cash out of pocket, and it doesn't exactly add a ton of value to the property. That's not to say high quality custom blinds won't add some value and showability to the home, but you don't exactly see a very good dollar for dollar return on purchasing new blinds. Item number 3 is the basement and garage. So if it's your first time buying a home, and especially if it's your first time buying a new construction home, it's important to know that the costs of the basement development as well as the garage, if it's a rear lane or rear detached garage home, are entirely separate to the purchase price. That being said, sometimes builders have promotions which include some of these features, but generally speaking, it's not included. Now, this has been common practice for some time, so it may seem obvious to some people, but it's something that's important just to keep in mind for additional costs down the road. It's Edmonton, it's a snowy climate. You're probably going to want to build a garage at some point as you own and live in the home. So if you're buying a property that does not come with a garage, you'll want to be aware of the approximate cost of this. Also, if you're someone who intends to develop your basement down the road, very often people don't do this right up front, but it's something to be aware of. Granted, at this recording, there are sometimes some decent deals on getting a basement development included with a builder. I would recommend having your realtor help you potentially negotiate that with a builder if that's something that's important to you. That being said, and an overall theme on this list is it's often less expensive to hire out these jobs yourself. This isn't a knock against builders at all, but their model is often based on building the home to a certain level and then selling it. To go above and beyond with extra finishings, it kind of screws up their logistics of how they project manage and plan for building. So overall, it's a little less expensive if you hire out the job yourself. Conversely, though, you will have to pay these costs out of pocket yourself versus potentially having it included in the cost of your mortgage. Point number 5 on this list is the intangible. So everything I mentioned here is a fairly tangible cost. That means we can look at it, we can point at it and say this thing costs this much money. But when it comes to real estate, there's a lot of intangibles or kind of subjective costs that aren't as easily identifiable. The biggest one when it comes to a new construction home is location. And as the old saying goes, location, location, location. Typically, new construction homes for most buyers are in newer communities, which by definition are further and further out, especially in our city for the most part. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but often a newer community, because it's further away, has more limited access to transit and amenities. So if this is important to you, this is a factor to definitely consider. Often these new areas as well don't quite have a school yet, or those are being built in the future, which means it may be a longer commute if you're sending your kids to school. Again, if public transit is important to you, or your family for getting around for school and work, this can be a very large factor in new and newer communities, as there's very often limited bus routes, if any at all. One interesting factor to also consider when it comes to new communities is a bit of a unique phenomenon in a brand new area, which I call a one-way in, one-way out scenario. Essentially what this is newer communities, due to the road layouts, etc., often only have one specific entrance to that community, which means at peak rush hour times, despite being a less busy residential road most of the time, it actually becomes a very busy and congested intersection, and this can just kind of be a pain to deal with day in and day out. Your realtor should be familiar with that area and be able to tell you if that's going to be a concern for you, and you and your realtor can discuss with the builder the community development plan and see future roadways and access points for the area. Again, a lot of these points actually apply more so to brand new communities. Conversely, a lot of what are considered the newer areas in Edmonton are, say, 5 to 7 years old at this recording, so many of these issues have kind of been resolved just as these areas get more developed and more built out, which is great for you because you can still buy a new home because they're still often developing these areas, but a lot of the amenities are largely there or almost complete. So to wrap things up, I'd say and emphasize that the goal of this list is not to scare you away from buying a new construction home. However, I just want you to be aware that if you're considering buying a new build, there are a few additional costs that don't actually apply to resale homes and you just may not be plainly aware of. Again, these costs are very often paid out of pocket and in addition to your down payment and the actual purchase price, which can just be an extra expense, especially if you're a newer first-time buyer. Conversely, you may have the option to add these on with the builder, but this will increase your purchase price at the end of the day. There are a lot of pros to buying a new construction home, namely that it's brand new, comes with warranty, and you can often tailor the home to your needs and wants specifically, and even to your taste, and make it look the way you want it to. However, there are some drawbacks with location, perhaps, as I mentioned above, and it's up to you to gauge which is more important to you, whether it be a really, really good location or perhaps you want the new and perhaps more affordable home than a more central, older community. Again, there's no right or wrong answers here. These are just a few specific items you should be aware of if you're looking to buy a new construction home. So that's my list for you today. If you are someone looking at purchasing a home in the greater Edmonton area, I would highly recommend you download my YEG Homebuyers Guide. There will be a link in the description below this video for you to download that for free. It's over 50 pages, walks you through the home buying process. And wherever you're watching this, whether it's Facebook or YouTube, feel free to check out my page or my channel for additional real estate videos and additional tips for buying and selling real estate in the greater YEG area. And last but not least, if you're looking to buy a home and buy or sell a home, I should say, and you need some help, feel free to reach out. You can reach me at thomasharrington.ca. That's my handle and my website, or email me hello@thomasharrington.ca, or there will be a contact button in the description below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.